Hey there, it's Dave Altavilla for Hot Hardware here with the OnePlus 6. It is powered by a Qualcomm Snapdragon 845 processor. It has not 4, not 6, but 8 gigabytes of RAM on board, as well as 128 gigs of storage, and as close to a bone stock installation of Android 8.1 Oreo as I've seen in a long time. On the edge of the box it says, "The speed you need." Is this the Android enthusiast and power user superphone you've been looking for? Well, so far, I'm liking it. So let's go ahead and run down the full list of specifications here for the OnePlus 6 because it is definitely a bit of a highlight reel. You have an all-glass design featuring Corning Gorilla Glass 5, 6.28-inch full optic AMOLED display with 19:9 aspect ratio. It is powered by a Qualcomm Snapdragon 845 octa-core processor at 2.8 gigahertz. You also get up to 8 gigabytes of system RAM and up to 256 gigs of storage. We specifically are looking at the 8 gigabyte RAM, 128 gigabyte storage version of the phone here. Dual rear camera system, 16 megapixel camera with f1.7 aperture, supported by a 20 megapixel camera as well. Face unlock, dash charge, which OnePlus claims a day's power in just a half an hour of charging. And it is driven by the Oxygen OS, which is a very thinly skinned Android 8.1 Oreo setup. It also sports OnePlus's unique slider that allows you to switch between silent, vibration, and ring modes with a mechanical switch. A feature that used to be around in smartphones, but we rarely see today, and it's a welcome addition back for the OnePlus 6. And all of this is backed up by a rather capacious 3,300 milliamp hour battery. And the OnePlus 6 is available in a total of 3 colors: Midnight Black, Mirror Black, and Silk White. We are looking at the Midnight Black version, which is a flat matte black that really nicely resists fingerprints, thankfully. Taking a quick walk around the OnePlus 6, on the right edge you have a power and screen lock button, as well as that ever fabulous mechanical alert slider that allows you to switch between silent, ring, and vibrate modes. On the left edge there's a volume rocker and a combination SIM and micro SD card slot. On bottom we have a single down-firing speaker that puts out reasonably good sound, but yeah, just one down-firing speaker here. USB-C port, mic port, and yes, that is a traditional headphone jack, thankfully. And on the rear of the OnePlus 6 are a pair of cameras. The primary camera is a 16 megapixel shooter with f1.7 aperture lens, as well as optical image stabilization. This is driven by a Sony IMX519 sensor. The secondary camera is a 20 megapixel shooter. It is driven by a Sony IMX376K sensor with f1.7 aperture, but it does not support optical image stabilization. Not really sure of the redundancy here. Would like to see a wide angle lens maybe, but we do have 4K 60 shooting capabilities for video with this camera setup and some pretty good performance, which we'll show you shortly. But what about that display? Yes, the 6.28-inch OLED display of the OnePlus 6 sports a notch. However, OnePlus has implemented what I would say is one of the best versions of notch control I've seen yet on an Android phone. As you can see, hide the notch area and it goes away, leaving you with only a very thin bezel up top and no notch. And the nice thing is that stays consistent throughout all applications in the phone and does not change. If you set it to no notch, you get no notch. And so really, notch or not, whether you prefer one, it's really not a problem with the OnePlus 6. I also like how OnePlus implemented their ambient display technology. Lying flat and unattended, there is no ambient display to drain your battery. However, lift the phone up and the ambient display kicks on, giving you your time and date, notifications, whatever you set up there. Performance-wise, though it's only a 1080p display, I'm certainly not missing it on the OnePlus 6. And this display absolutely blows away other OLED displays on the market these days in flagship Android phones, like Google's Pixel 2 XL here on the right. As you can see, viewing angles are excellent, and the Pixel 2 can't keep up. In fact, this is one of the first OLED displays I've seen in an Android phone compete with Samsung's excellent Super AMOLED technology in the Galaxy S9 Plus, for example. You also get some handy screen calibration controls with the OnePlus 6, and you can select from default mode, which I actually happen to like the best, sRGB, DCI P3, which is the American film industry standard, adaptive mode, or custom color in case you want to set the hue setup of the display cooler or warmer. In terms of camera setup, we have a fairly standard Android 8.1 Oreo implementation with a few features dialed in, especially for the OnePlus 6, including a nice zoom mode and a portrait mode that's available that shoots, unfortunately, in what only seems to be a 4:3 aspect currently, the quality of which is decent but can't quite compete with Google's Pixel 2 XL in terms of depth of field bokeh effect. However, in general, still shots with the OnePlus 6 are pretty competitive with the likes of Google's Pixel 2 XL or Samsung's Galaxy S9. In my opinion, I've always found the Pixel 2 XL to shoot a little dark and a little drab, and where the OnePlus 6 can sometimes shoot a touch overexposed, in general, again, camera performance is competitive with some of the best Android flagships on the market currently, especially when it comes to low light shots. So unless you shoot a lot of portrait mode for its depth of field blurry goodness, still image-wise, I think the OnePlus 6 holds its own just fine. When it comes to video, the OnePlus 6 can shoot up to 4K 60 FPS with good autofocus response, great image quality, and reasonably good image stabilization, though it can be a little wonky in certain lighting conditions. And again, another nice feature of the OnePlus 6 is what it doesn't have, which is a lot of bloat on top of Android. And OnePlus was good enough to keep things very light in the skins here, leaving what is essentially a clean Android 8.1 setup with the Oxygen OS, which does have a few extra hooks and features that are thoughtful inclusions rather than mucking up and reinventing the wheel. So you've got things like advanced settings here where you've got game mode, for example, where you can block notifications while gaming and also do things like packet prioritization with something called Network Boost, which will minimize traffic over other apps and give you prioritization to your gaming apps in terms of network performance. And when it comes to performance, that lean and mean OS coupled with 8 gigs of RAM and Qualcomm's Snapdragon 845 processor results in a very responsive and satisfying Android smartphone experience. The OnePlus 6 will basically handle anything you can throw at it, from heavy-duty multitasking with multiple apps open to just how fast it renders the screens. It's really just a super fast smartphone, and in the benchmarks, it also scored some of the best Android numbers we've seen to date of any flagship device. That is, with the exception of a small bit of thermal throttling, which is standard issue, frankly, for most smartphones in the market these days under extended heavy-duty use. Hit the card link above for more info on that. Regardless, for well under $600 with 8 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage as tested here, the OnePlus 6 is one of our favorite Android superphones so far this year. It really is a solid value for the money when you compare similar spec phones on the market these days, unlocked and off contract. In fact, we're giving it an Editor's Choice Award. But make sure you stop by HotHardware.com for our full review in the days ahead with all the juicy details and analysis, and thumbs up and subscribe if you'd be so kind for more of our tech product review mojo and our always fun and frolicking 2.5 Geeks webcast. I'm Dave Altavilla for HotHardware.com with none other than the OnePlus 6. Thanks for stopping by.